The New Forest has long been one of the UK's most biodiverse places. However, is its naturalness fading? Are there problems within this UK national park? And if there are, what might be some solutions? Over the years, I've loved visiting, camping and spending long summer days exploring its ancient woodlands, open heathlands and wetlands, and of course, stopping to watch the iconic Exmoor ponies. But as I've become more aware of the state of nature in the UK, it's clear that there's some inherent problems throughout the country, particularly within our national parks, places that really should showcase the best of the UK's wilderness and naturalness. And because of this, their management must be held to an extremely high standard. And with this in mind, I visited the New Forest to investigate, to look for underlying problems, and I was quite shocked at some of the realisations that I had. So my name's Rob. For the past decade I've been studying, I've been working, and now I create videos about the natural world and rewilding. I do it here on Leave Curious, and you've probably seen me over at Mossy Earth too. But I never would have gotten into any of this if it wasn't for today's sponsor, Ecology Training UK. Back when I was first starting out and I knew I wanted to work outside, I took some ecology training courses and they really helped me progress. And today they offer so many online courses on such a variety of different topics. There's face-to-face stuff too, and a lot of them are introductory, so if you just want to expand your knowledge, it's perfect. But it's also great if you want to begin to pursue a career in working with nature and rewilding. Actually, if you're interested in rewilding and you've been enjoying these videos, I recommend that you check out their rewilding course. It's extensive, it goes into great detail, and if you use the code 10 Leave Curious, you'll get 10% off all online courses. I'm really pumped about this, so thank you to Ecology Training for sponsoring today's video. So what's the problem with the New Forest? Well, broadly speaking, it's the steady degradation of its habitats, resulting in less life and less resilience as a result from a number of pressures. These being high levels of visitors to the park. The current climate plays an integral role too. Pressures from forestry and agriculture cannot be ignored, but what holds most influence over the park are the direct ways it's managed. Commoning is the main way the New Forest is managed. Commoners are the people who own properties that have historic rights to openly graze large herbivores throughout the New Forest. Most notably, it's Exmoor ponies. Through grazing, these animals maintain the open heathlands of the New Forest. Controlled burning is also used too, to kill off any gorse before it gets too dominant. The animals grazing, the controlled burning, and of course industries like forestry and agriculture are responsible for shaping the New Forest and how we see it today. Alright, so you might be thinking, I don't really see the problem here. Having herbivores roaming free through natural habitats is a good thing, isn't it? Well, yes it is, but only when there is the right balance of animals. When there's too many, something bad happens, and that's called overgrazing. Simply put, overgrazing occurs when there's too many herbivores on a given area and not enough plants for them to eat. The vegetation isn't given enough time to regrow. In extreme cases, overgrazing leads to soil erosion and bare earth where nothing can grow. And in very simple, basic terms, that's what's being said about the New Forest, that there's too many grazing animals, and instead of maintaining it, they're actually degrading it. And I've come to the New Forest to see what evidence that I can find of overgrazing, but first, there's an idea which we need to talk about which underpins all of this. There's this idea in ecology called the shifting baseline syndrome, and that sounds like something kind of nasty, doesn't it? And I guess it is, if you're not aware of it. And the idea is that with each new generation, what we know and what we accept of our landscapes, of their naturalness, shifts. So when my great-great-grandfather visited the New Forest, what he would have seen is different to what I see today. And we know now because of records that the UK, that the world for that matter, is losing biodiversity. So that baseline of naturalness is shifting in a downwards way. Being aware of this is so important because otherwise we will just live our lives accepting things as we find them, and as the years go by, they slowly decline. We don't really notice it all that much, and then we die and the new generation inherits this degraded landscape and the cycle continues. This, I fear, is happening in the New Forest. And looking through this new lens, I recently spent 2 days exploring, looking for signs of stress and overgrazing. This whole area here seems very overgrazed. I mean, this is like a lawn. The grass in my garden is longer than this. I would be right to use the word lawn because this blanket of grass is actually meant to be here. It's one of several lawns throughout the New Forest, typically meant for people to enjoy. I mean, this is nicer than some of the football pitches that I've played on over the years. And I'm not joking, it really was. Should our national parks be suitable to play a decent game of passing football? As well as encountering this lawn that was undeniably overgrazed, I also walked through heathlands. To summarise for you with respect to their condition, I saw a mixed bag. Near the village of Lyndhurst there was some rather large patches of gorse, but besides this it was just tightly nibbled grass throughout, and here you can see the controlled burning of gorse to prevent it from taking over and generally just keeping this habitat open. On another heathland there was quite a bit of heather and an area of naturally regenerating silver birch. This was just a relatively small patch, and what extended out beyond it was just heather. It was only when I put the drone up here that I could really see the vastness of this area, the lack of structural diversity and the disconnection between woodlands. I'm now leaving this woodland, which was pretty well overgrazed, and I'm now coming out into an open area which is just another lawn really. That woodland that I mentioned that looked overgrazed, in here the holly trees showed signs of browsing and much of the ground was quite well trampled. Now there are some like pockets of gorse, and interestingly there's some trees growing in the middle. They've been able to grow, you know, with the protection of the gorse and bramble around it. Oh, let's have a berry, shall we? Throughout this whole area you've got these patches of gorse with trees growing in them, but it's still very open. I'm just walking through, approaching this woodland here. I want to go take a look at it, but now there's heather around me. You can actually hear the buzz of insects, which is quite nice. So again, we have the lawn effect. I'm right on the edge of this woodland, and all we've got here is just lawn. It's almost like it's been cut. And then as I come up and step into this woodland, I'm just seeing again, like, look at the lack of ground flora. But there's no shortages of pony poop. Oh my word, I thought this was like an old tree stump. It's not, it's a cow pat. Look at the size of that. Look, that's my foot. For reference, I'm a size 11. I've got fairly big feet. That thing is huge. This feels very bleak in here in terms of ground floor. It's essentially just bare earth, and it shouldn't be. You've got nice light coming through the canopy here. Sometimes in woodlands, due to the canopy shading out the light, nothing can grow beneath it. But this wasn't the case in this woodland. Many of the trees were holding scars from what looked like browsing. The lack of ground flora here I suspected was due to continued disturbance from animals. And walking into the woodland more, I came to a river which had very little vegetation growing around it, another sign of trampling and use by large animals. However, when on the other side of the river, you could actually see something of an understory. It looked like the river had acted as something of a natural barrier, with the land to one side of it being overgrazed more than the other due to accessibility. So I'm now the other side of that river, which I think served as a bit of a barrier, because this side, you know, there is some ground flora, there's some bracken here. Historic wound on this old oak tree here. It's hard to know what caused it for sure, but it's kind of the perfect height for a grazing animal. I decided to follow the river for a bit because I knew it would be an attraction for the grazing animals. Now, I'm not trying to have a bias in this video, I just want to make that clear. I'm just trying to walk around and see what I can find, but this woodland here, this looks kind of natural. I think it's by virtue of the species here. I think we've got some willow here, which have kind of makes it slightly more inaccessible, though you can see that the ponies have tried to come in, but all of this looks pretty natural. Wow, nice windblown oak tree here. That is, in fact, still alive. Look at this, look, it's got some live growth on it just here. See? It's got acorns coming off it. And here's that same river which we just saw, but a little bit further upstream. And it looks a lot more healthier here. And this was because there were less signs of grazing, of erosion to the river. There were more plants, and in general, this area felt more vibrant. The other habitat which I came across were wetlands. This type of habitat isn't typically favoured by herbivores, as it's quite hard to walk through, as I found out too. There was this lovely patch of wet woodland here. It was small, but it was still lovely, and naturally certain patches in the landscape were just a bit more saturated. I know that in the past, many of the park's wetlands were drained to create better conditions for agriculture and forestry. Just like overgrazing, this is a common theme across the whole of the UK and part of our history. I think because of this, I didn't come across many wetlands. I walked around for 2 days and I documented what I found. There's obviously an awful lot that I didn't see, but from what I did see, I think there was pretty strong evidence of overgrazing. So what might be some solutions? My take on the New Forest is this: it needs to be less tended to. Certain areas felt like gardens and not a wild national park. It's important that we hold on to heritage and traditional ways of management, but I think they should be limited because from just my short stay to create this video, there were signs of stress due to not only overgrazing, but pressure in general. Less pressure will allow woodlands to regenerate, increasing the connectivity between what felt like really isolated patches of trees. Less pressure will allow the more trampled woodlands to develop intact understories. Less pressure will allow heathlands to scrub up a bit, let the gorse grow and take over if it wants to. I know this isn't the goal, having large areas of scrubby thorny species, but ultimately that's far more dynamic for wildlife, it's far better for the health of the soils than tightly grazed compacted burnt land ever will be. Plus, scrubby areas aren't that inviting to tourists, and it really seemed like every part of the new forest was accessible. When we define the new forest and how it looks, how we want it to look, it shouldn't only be ideas and ways of life rooted in the past. Times are different, the pressures are different now, and the consequences of how we choose to manage the land are getting greater. We know that when we let nature take the lead, it finds a way to recovery. And we really should know now that our constant tinkering and our overdoing things only interrupts the cadence of natural systems. The New Forest is a place that is loved by many, me included. That's exactly why I want to ensure that we're making it a place that will be healthy for future generations, so that I can reconnect with it as an old man, with only one of us having deteriorated. If you've got this far in the video, leave the word biscuits down in the comments. That way I know you're a real one that watches until the end. And if you want to learn more and maybe start a career working with nature, then check out Ecology training. Thank you so much for watching this one. Hope you've enjoyed it. Leave curious. There is a pony looking like it's going in the back of someone's car there. It's like it's getting itself a snack.